Good afternoon everyone and welcome to Erudite, a fortnightly discussion started by APSCHE. I am Nagesh Babu, young professional working in APSCHE. Today we are going to discuss the topic inclusive education and we have with us eminent panel. We have with us Mrs. Shaheen Mistri, founder and CEO, Teach for India. Welcome ma'am.
Thank you. So nice to be here.
And we have Professor T. Lakshmamma, Vice-Chairperson, AP State Council of Higher Education. Welcome ma'am.
Namaste. Namaste, ma'am.
And we have with us Professor M. Surya Kalavathi, Vice-Chancellor, Yogi Vemana University, Kadapa. Welcome ma'am.
Namaste.
UNICEF says inclusive education allows students of all backgrounds to learn and grow side by side to the benefit of all. Inclusion in education incorporates the students from all backgrounds irrespective of their socio-political and economic limitations, and the students with disabilities into general academic courses on campus across disciplines and departments with non-disabled peers. Inclusive education in nutshell means leaving no one behind. In India, there are constitutional provisions for inclusive education like Article 14, Article 21A and 86 Constitutional Amendment Act. Sustainable Development Goal 4 emphasizes ensuring inclusive and equitable quality education and promoting lifelong learning opportunities for all. Inclusive education must respond to all peoples as individuals, recognizing individuality as something to be appreciated and respected. Inclusive education responding to special needs will thus have positive returns for all pupils. All children and young people of the world, with their strengths and their weaknesses, with their hopes and their expectations, have the right to education. It is our responsibility to ensure every student has access to quality education. Institutions, both government and non-government across the world, are striving very hard to make education inclusive, accessible, equitable and qualitative. Today, we at APSCHE are expecting your valuable insights for the following questions. What strategy should APSCHE as a state council adopt and implement to ensure inclusivity in higher education? And what are the best practices around the world that higher education institutions in India should emulate for inclusive education? Let us start with the founder and CEO of Teach for India, Shaheen Mistri ma'am. A brief introduction about her. Shaheen Mistri ma'am founded the first APSCHE Foundation in 1989 with 15 children. Today, APSCHE Foundation runs 21 APSCHE schools across Mumbai and Pune, impacting over 10,000 children across Mumbai and Pune. In 2008, searching for a way to impact more children and inspired by the Teach for America model, Shaheen Mistri ji founded Teach for India with the vision of providing an excellent education to all children across India by building a movement of leaders committed to ending educational inequality in India. Today, Teach for India impacts over 32,000 children through the direct work of over 900 fellows and 250 staff across 8 cities, and has produced over 9,100 strong student alumni. Additionally, Teach for India alumni community is 3,800 plus members strong, impacting 1 million children directly and reaching over 33 million children indirectly. Shaheen ji serves on the boards of the APSCHE Foundation and the advisory board of Museum of Solution. She has been an Ashoka Fellow, a Global Leader for Tomorrow at the World Economic Forum, and an Asia Society 21 Leader. She has been a recipient of accolades such as the Jamalal Bazaz Award for Development and Welfare of Women and Children in 2019 and the Beyond Business ET Prime Women Leadership Award for 2020, to name a few. She is the author of the book Redrawing India and the Miss Mowgli children's books. She has a bachelor's degree from St. Xavier's College, Mumbai, and a master's degree in education from the University of Manchester. Shaheen ji's work for children over 3 decades has mobilized thousands of people to work together for systemic change in education. Today, she has built the largest network of education change makers in the country. Shaheen ji, we would like to get your opinion on the following question. What is your definition of inclusive education? What are the key challenges concerning inclusivity you have observed over the past 3 decades in Indian classrooms?
Thank you so much, and thank you for inviting me to such an important discussion. The definition to me of inclusive, very similar to what you said in your introduction. It's about all of us, every child, and not just every child being included, but every child being included in a way in which they really belong. They feel safe and they have what they need, not just to exist in the classroom, but to thrive to their full potential. So to me, inclusive education is really for us, all of us, as citizens, as educators, to do whatever it takes so that every single child can thrive. That is the big dream, and the definition. I think the challenges are many, and it's important that we face the challenges and we are honest about the challenges. I feel the challenges are both internal in our own mindsets, and they are also very real in terms of the environment around us. I would start with the internal mindset, our own belief. When we look at a child with a disability, or we look at a child from a disadvantaged background, do we have the same level of belief that that child can learn, can thrive, can flourish, can reach their potential? And it's interesting, if you look at inclusion over time, we have moved slowly, but we are still not fully moved from a charity model or a medical model that, there is something wrong with children, we have to fix them, to a much more rights model that every child deserves the opportunities to actually thrive. So I think the first key challenge is our own belief. The second key challenge is our own expectations. Do we say, oh, poor child, let me just give them a little bit, or it's okay if they sit in the corner and do something else? Or do we say, no, every child will be successful in different ways, will have different dreams, but every child can lead a meaningful life? Can we keep our own bar very high? And the third, which will be no surprise to anyone here or on the call, is just the resources. Are we putting enough resources? Ultimately, all of this comes down to who is the teacher, the educator, the human being in front of the child. And are we investing in that person? Are we training that person? Are we supporting that person? Because the work of inclusion is not easy for the educator as well. So the human resources, and really investing in those resources and creating spaces for all of us to have this kind of discussion, that what is difficult for us? It's okay, we may make mistakes, but can we be on the journey together?
Thank you, ma'am. So you have put it in a very brief way. Inclusivity means all of us, and every child in classroom should thrive to their own full potential. And you have talked about challenges like our own belief, our expectations, resources, and creating safe spaces for all of us. Thank you, ma'am. I'll get back to you. Now we have with us Professor T. Lakshmamma. Professor T. Lakshmamma did her post-graduation in Population Studies and Psychology from Sri Venkateswara University, Tirupati. She was awarded a PhD in 1989. She has more than 27 years of postgraduate teaching experience and 34 years of research experience, along with individual research from 1984 till date. She has held many administrative positions and is currently the Vice-Chairperson of the Andhra Pradesh State Council of Higher Education. She is also the State Nodal Officer of All India Survey on Higher Education. She is a lifetime member of many professional bodies and also an executive member of many associations. She is also a recipient of many prestigious awards. Professor M. Surya Kalavathi did her PhD in 2006 from JNTU Hyderabad and her postdoctoral in 2008 from Carnegie Mellon University, USA. She has more than 31 years of experience in different areas of electrical and electronics engineering in the cadres of assistant professor, associate professor, and professor. She has held many administrative positions and is currently the Vice-Chancellor of Yogi Vemana University, Kadapa. She has guided 28 PhD students and published more than 200 papers in national and international journals. She was awarded Distinguished Woman in Engineering by Venus International Foundation in 2017. Kalavathi ma'am, the question to you is, what is your definition of inclusive education?
Okay. Today's guest of honor, Professor T. Lakshmamma Garu, Vice Chairman APSCHE, and Mrs. Shaheen Mistri ji, founder and CEO Tech for India. I'm happy to be a part of this panel discussion on a seminal topic, inclusive education. So I appreciate the organizers for contemplating such a meaningful and contemporary and relevant topic, which needs to be addressed and debated not merely by the people at the helm of affairs, but by all the stakeholders in the field of education. The gifts of education are bountiful, and we, the benefactors, should be committed to its sustain and overall development. So the cultural revolution transformed our lives and our efforts since times immemorial has been to build knowledge societies in order to bring refinement and sophistication in all walks of life. So the marvels of science and technology influence every discipline, and we continue to innovate the means of seeking knowledge. One major paradigm shift that we witnessed is the thirst and skills, which enables the individuals to be self-sufficient. The focus of education today is on building conceptual knowledge and survival skills. With the judicious combination of knowledge and skills, the holistic development of the student, regardless of the socio-culture, economic, gender, and linguistic barriers, to be ensured. In this pursuit, the makers of Constitution, with second vision, empowered the people to seek opportunities of education, and education for all has been the clarion call. Education was the monopoly of the rich and the individuals who could afford to spend money. It was a cry for moon for the poor, underprivileged, and dispossessed. Thanks to our constitution and educational reforms, which brought access to education even to the poorest of the poor by lending financial support, which resulted in upliftment of sections of the society, besides bridging the societal gaps. So Indian classroom, which is essential and heterogeneous, accommodates students and representing varied backgrounds with mixed abilities. At the present, it is all inclusive classroom with a tremendous diversity, which is a welcoming sign, and the increase of enrollment of girls in institutions is at another healthy development. Women education brought sea changes in societal scenario and impacted the lives positively. So in this inclusive education endeavors to promote opportunities of learning and academic growth, which facilitates individuals to become enlightened citizens who are expected to serve the society selflessly and use their worth to bring light in the lives of the ill fortune. The mission of the inclusive education aims at developing the skills among the students, inclusive universal human values, and build the confidence required to meet the challenges of the wide world outside. So, with growing demands of the job market, the curriculum in tune with the notion of inclusive education needs to be fine tuned. The onus lies on the part of policymakers and educationalists and teachers and intellectuals to strengthen the system which fulfills the educational needs of all by developing suitable strategies. Teachers today is no longer an authorization to control who controls the class and confines to the job of teaching, but a facilitator and a guide and a philosopher and a friend. But for the teachers to perform these roles, for responsibility to create ideal situation lies with the students and parents. So special care is to be given to the needy and differently abled students to channelize their abilities and make them worthy. I am reminded of the film Tare Zamane Par by Amir Khan, where the teacher spots talents and identifies the problem of the child by bestowing personal attention. Every student is unique, with inherent capabilities, and he or she can be shown better sense of direction for their future with a secular attitude and best pedagogical practices and secular attitude and learner-centered approach, innovative think and resourcefulness on the part of the teacher, and sympathy and empathy for those who are weak and disabled, and patience, objective thinking. We have very cozy picture on one hand with lofty objectives, but on the other hand, we have to formidable problems still posing threat to fulfill the objectives of inclusive education. To cite a few: urban-rural divide and digital divide, poor infrastructure and ill-equipped schools, lack of motivation and awareness, and excessive thirst on professional careers, and ignoring humanities and social sciences, diffidence among the rural youth in seeking educational opportunities, lack of adequate teacher training. Therefore, to accomplish the objectives of inclusive education, there is a need to put in concerned and cohesive efforts in a positive direction. So I thank the Andhra Pradesh State Council of Higher Education and the organizers for giving me this opportunity. So thank you, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. So we have talked about inclusive education is we need to break all the barriers and provide education for all, and
Yeah.
it should provide opportunities of learning and growth for all. And you have talked about Tare Zameen Par movie. Every student is unique, and I'll get back to you, ma'am, on the point about digital divide. Coming
Oh.
back to Lakshmamma, ma'am, what is your definition of inclusive education?
Thank you, Nagesh Babu. Once again, thanking the discussants along with chief guest, Madam Shaheen Mistri, Tech for India, founder and CEO, and Professor M. Surya Kalavathi, Vice-Chancellor, Yogi Vemana University, on behalf of APSCHE and also on my behalf as Vice-Chairperson of APSCHE, Higher Education Council of Andhra Pradesh. Today the topic of the Erudite program is inclusive education. Inclusive education is not a new concept. This inclusiveness, encouraging, identifying and encouraging these latent potentialities is not a new one in fact, but still right from 1968 National Policy on Education till National Education Policy of 2020, the very basic principles are not changed, but they were enriched, strengthened based on the need of the day, which is very much essential. The very basic principles of any educational policy right from 1968 till NEP 2020 are free and compulsory education, very much continuing, education of teachers, very much continuing and still it needs this very much, providing faculty development programs, professional development programs, orientation and refresher courses through academic staff colleges. Like that, teachers are go on getting their are strengthening their energies. They are given scope and facilities by the government, state and central governments. The third principle is language development. Yes, it is very much required. After all, language only through language one can learn, understand, read, write and report. The other one is uniform education structure. It is very much essential for global comparisons. If it is not uniform, the structure of the course, curriculum, a comparison is very difficult. The last one is to review the progress for any policy, for any implementation, evaluation at the end of the stage or in between the stage. Its impact is very important because of its sustainability with modifications wherever needed and whenever needed. This is this all needs at our best by any government. It is in general, and then inclusive in another form as its synonym, comprehensive education system is itself is introduced in 1986 National Education Policy. Okay. And also another development of that 1986 National Education Policy is facilitating non-formal education to the dropouts during that time. Okay. Then by the onwards till NEP 2020, these educational policies were modified and strengthened based on the demand of the day. Though UNICEF definition is leaving no one behind, already in force, definitely in the state of Andhra Pradesh. Inclusive may be looked at different angles, like inclusive by social status, reservation system, inclusive by gender, male, female, importance to the girl children, and economically backward community people also to bring them up, and by religion also, minorities, BCCs, and challenges like earlier it was handicapped or like that they used to call, but now differently abled children also. They were constitutionally protected in the state of Andhra Pradesh and also in the country to my understanding, and the history says, the record says. Online education, online learning facilities, distance mode of traditional mode of learning, all are constitutionally provisioned, protected for the lifelong inclusive education both in the state and also at national level. Even recently, may not be recently exactly, even this inclusive education system is restructured in the name of interdisciplinary approach by subject, multidisciplinary subject also. In fact, multidisciplinary education system and research is much more encouraged recently, both by the state governments and also central government, much by our AP State Council of Higher Education. This is through CBCS system, including generic electives and open electives credit transfer system. It is nothing but inclusive education structure itself is in force, I can say, by discipline wise, and this would increase, this would strengthen this system of inclusive education system of policies and modification would enrich the inclusivity, as I said, by different angles and also accessibility of different people from different categories and equitable opportunities of all these, and also qualitative education, the very purpose of inclusive education or education itself. Coming to the features of inclusive education, everybody, it is a sort of micro teaching by accepting the situation or the pupil as they are, as it is, by understanding the situation or system or the pupil as they are, and also attending to its diversity, individual diversity and the diversity of that present moment. That is the very basic feature of inclusive education. According to Edward Thorndike, who has developed laws of learning, also he made it say that this inclusive education, through inclusive education, the system or the pupil, the student must develop readiness. The teacher or somebody who is taking care of him or her should make efforts for his readiness towards this inclusive education system, to exercise, to make him practice, to motivate the pupil or the system or the institution for this inclusive education changes, and also affect, affect the system or the institution or the people, basically even the teacher must be ready, exercise and effect towards the changing structural changes that are taking place in the education system, maybe in terms of inclusive education system. Here the role of parents and the role of teacher, much more the role of teachers is very, very important in order to get the attention, acceptance and understanding of the system, changing emergence of the environment and the pupil more, the student more, then only the object of the inclusiveness could be successful any time and could be a sustainable object to our educational system of any place for that matter, as I understand. Shall I go through? Okay. I will stop. Okay. Thank you very much. This is my opinion on this.
Thank you, ma'am. You have talked about free and compulsory education, teacher training, faculty development programs, and you have told from NP, National Policy on Education in 1968 to new National Education Policy 2020, the basic principles have been strengthening. And you have talked that review of every policy should be done from the lens of the impact it has on inclusivity and sustainability. You talked about non-formal education to dropouts and online learning facilities to all. I will come back to you, ma'am, on the APSCHE's initiatives in ensuring inclusivity in higher education. Shaheen ji, you have talked about one of the challenges is moving from charity model to rights based model. We would like to understand what are some of the steps Teach for India has taken towards making education more inclusive in their classrooms.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think the first is just the choice of which children we are working with. And so our vision at Teach for India, which we share with so many other organizations, governments, is that every child should get an excellent, equitable education. I think just putting the word equity in our vision changes all of our actions. So, who we work with children from low income backgrounds. We have a program called TFIX where we work with children across rural areas, tribal areas, very difficult geographies, children who are HIV positive, children who have a range of different disabilities. So we're supporting entrepreneurs to work across many different geographies, and our core fellowship is all focused on teaching children in government schools and in some of the lowest income private schools. So I think that is one commitment that we make. The second is, we have a sort of guiding purpose, and we say our dream is one day that we all live in India, free of poverty and filled with love. And when we say free of poverty, we don't just mean financial poverty, we mean social poverty, spiritual poverty. And when we say love, we take this word very seriously, that if I love what I do, if I love who I'm with, then I serve, then I approach my work with love, with service. And that is very important. So we try to train all of our fellows, our staff members, through modeling ourselves. What does love look like in the small actions of our work every day? The third, and all the panelists touched upon this in different ways, is we help our teachers see that you are not a teacher of a classroom. You are a teacher of individual children in that classroom. And that makes a world of a difference, because when you see them as individual children and not as one group, then you start asking, what does this child need? How is what this child need is different than this child, right? So in fact, we focus on equity a lot. We say some children actually need more than others at certain times. How do we give them what they actually need? So this idea of training teachers in how to teach in a way that reaches every single child. For example, one new thing we're trying this year is the student portfolio. Every week, can a child sit and reflect on their own progress and not compare it? So now everyone doesn't have to get to a 95% in math. Every child needs to find that purpose and move closer to that purpose. So I think that's another. The other is pedagogy that includes all children. See, as a teacher, it's very difficult. I may have 40, 50 students. It's easy for you to tell me to differentiate, but I have so many problems, and 5 of those students are acting up, and 6 of them have come after 5 days. It's a very difficult job. But can we train our teachers to use many different types of learning? Because each child will grasp something different. Even on this panel, right? One of us may really remember something that I sing. Somebody may like movement. Somebody may like to look at something. Somebody may like to just listen. We all learn in different ways. Can we help our teachers teach in different ways? We're much more likely to touch all children in a classroom. And the one that I think is very underrated, somehow we feel as children get older, they don't need to have fun. And by the time we're adults, nobody is thinking about fun. And what I've found is education must be filled with fun. We can push our children and challenge them if they are also enjoying themselves at the same time. They are children, they want to enjoy themselves. So can we teach pedagogy that touches all, that is filled with fun, very engaging pedagogy? The other thing we do is, because the needs of different children are sometimes so extreme, and our teachers that teach for India don't have a lot of experience. It's a 2-year fellowship, so they are year 1 and year 2 teachers. We try to partner a lot with other organizations that have a lot more expertise than us. So if a child has a behavior problem, if a child has a learning problem, we try. We are not always able to do it, but we try to develop an individual plan for them. We try to consult with other organizations to help us. And the final thing that I really want to say honestly, because when I was invited also for this panel, my first reaction was, I don't want to talk on this panel because we are not doing enough. Our intention is to do more, but there are children who are getting lost in our classroom. The bottom 25 the bottom quartile of children, 25% of kids who are not learning, who are behaving, in ways that are very difficult for a teacher to manage. How can we focus even more on those children? Those are the kids who need us the most. So I think for Teach for India, we are trying a lot of things. We have a lot of belief, a lot of intention, but we have a long way to go to be able to say that our classrooms are truly inclusive for every single child.
Thank you, Shaheen ji. You have touched upon many points, and we love all the points. And you told we need excellent and equitable education for every child to make the classrooms more inclusive. You talked about we all wish to see India free of poverty, that is financial, social, and spiritual, and filled with love. You talked about student portfolio, which is an excellent idea, and I'll come back to you. Thank you so much. Surya Kalavathi ma'am.
So nowadays, due to the COVID-19, so online teaching is a very user-friendly for everybody. So for this one, to be more empathetic, that is the first thing. So, and second one is to make the teaching learning process simplified and more learner-friendly. And third one is to optimally use learner-friendly technology, specifically devised for the students with the disabilities. And fourth one is to make the learner feel confident by constant interaction and motivation. To enable them, fifth one is to enable them gain knowledge and skill by bestowing personal care. And sixth one is to involve their parents, that is important, or acquaintances with the educational background in extending the moral support. And seventh one is to prepare user-friendly teaching modules. And eighth one is to reduce the quantum of academic load if required without causing any dent to the spirit of education. And ninth one is to develop appropriate patterns of testing as per the prevailing conditions and the requirements. And last one is to make available teaching materials and personally monitor by getting into touch with the students using electronic gadgets. These are the things.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We have
Thank
talked
you.
about learner-friendly devices, and we need to interact and motivate students continuously by involving their parents and extending moral
Yeah.
support. Thank you, ma'am. Coming back to Lakshmamma ma'am, ma'am, you have told APSCHE, AP State Council of Higher Education, has taken many initiatives in ensuring inclusivity in higher education. Could you please touch upon that, ma'am?
Definitely, everybody knew the people of Andhra Pradesh. The very mega venture of endeavor, in fact, of APSCHE is revamping of the entire curriculum, including add-on courses to enhance the employable skills of the pupil, and with 10 months compulsory internship with various industries directly from classroom to internship or apprenticeship for their to get them ready, the students, to get them ready for their employability without any fear, and taking the another course of training to get to stand on their own legs. And this is one thing. And to come out of the language problem, people from rural to urban or Telugu medium to English medium, APSCHE has developed and supplied even online, it is there, and thing, the provision of the bilingual books, textbooks both in English and Telugu, they are there for graduates. APSCHE, the second venture of this APSCHE for inclusive education. As I told already, the reservations and all for the inclusion of all categories of students, it is there in force already for challenged children, for economically poor children, it is there, nothing new. And but these systems are very much strengthening by the government through APSCHE, no doubt. Online learning system, it is in practice, facilitated very much, stopgap enrollment for the dropouts at any stage for their own causes. And regarding to research, state research board is being established to make the concern, to inculcate the concern among the students during their college education itself. Compulsory community service projects were included in their graduation program itself, to understand their own environment where they are, to identify, to think about, to study, to analyze and come out with problem solving tendencies, potentialities among the students. These programs were introduced in the government of Andhra Pradesh through APSCHE, and to facilitate the students, LMS is in force. What else we need? Libraries are there, scholarships are there, facilities are there for all categories of people, for different categories of people, to include, to make them to accessible to this educational system in the state of Andhra Pradesh. Everybody appreciated this thing. Another, this is regarding initiatives of APSCHE, many more are like this. I mean, to provide accessibility approaches, to encourage from all different types of angles of the society, student community in the state of Andhra Pradesh.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. And the initiatives of APSCHE are unique, and like digital libraries, remote learning centers,
Yes.
learning management system, bilingual textbooks. Thank you so much, ma'am. Coming back to Shaheen ma'am, so the question is, what would you like to share with the audience to inspire them to play their part in making education more inclusive?
Just share one big idea, and it's a very obvious idea, but I think we don't do it a lot as educators. And that idea is to, if we want inclusion, to actually include children in the solution. And what does that mean? That means, how much are we listening to children? How much are we asking them? What do you need, instead of deciding for them what they need? How much are we sitting with them and saying, okay, if you are saying this is what you need, can you help me solve that need? So, I think in education, we tend to think that we as the educators have the responsibility of educating 260 million children. But I've come to realize that children want to be part of that solution. They want to be listened to. They want to help their teacher. Teacher doesn't have to do everything for 50 kids. If the teacher gives the children opportunities to help each other, to teach each other, to mentor each other, if the teacher asks the students instead of their supervisor, how can I become better as a teacher? Children will give so much feedback. So I think my dream is that every time I get invited to one of these panels sometime in the future, we are not only talking to each other, all of us with 30 years of experience, but we are talking to children who are the recipients also, and asking children who have been left out of the system because of gender, because of background, because of disability, talking to them and saying, what do you need? What kind of policy changes would help you? That is my big hope for the system.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for your inputs. And what is coming out of this discussion is education for all. So, for that we need to break all the barriers, and we need to make sure every child thrives to their full potential. We need to provide excellent and equitable education for every child. For this, we need to train the teachers to teach every child in different ways, so that the teacher can touch upon every child. And as Shaheen ma'am told, so every teacher should think the teacher is teaching individual children instead of group of children. And as Surya Kalavathi ma'am told, we need to provide opportunities of learning and growth for all. As Lakshmamma ma'am told, we need to provide non-formal education to dropouts, and we need to review the policies from the perspective of inclusivity and sustainability. And including children in solution by listening to them is very important, and we need to mentor our children to teach each other, that is pure learning. To bring inclusivity in education, we want to see an India that is free of poverty and filled with love. Thank you once again everyone. This was a splendid discussion and we have learnt a lot. Thank you once again.